The mics are back on, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. Welcome, everyone, and keep tuning into us on YouTube and listening to us on our streaming website. We are getting close to 1 million people since we started the show. Our next guest, Rick Colson, owner and master printer of EcoVisualLab. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks.
Tell us
Nice
about
to be here.
yourself and EcoVisual.
EcoVisualLab came about a number of years ago as a result of some deeply personal experiences involving the death of my late wife, who died from an environmentally related cancer. And I had been a photographer for most of my life, but found that after her passing, it was difficult, if not impossible, to go back into a chemical darkroom. So I looked for a long time for more green alternatives, more sustainable, healthy alternatives to most photographic processes, and that's how EcoVisualLab came about. So we print on a unique combination of inks and papers. Our papers are made from the reclaimed fibers from cottonseed oil manufacturing, so they're all actually made from cottonseed oil, which is a food product. So this is all food-grade cotton. And the inks that we use have no volatile organic compounds. They don't off-gas or out-gas. They're healthy. You could hang one of our prints over a baby's crib 5 minutes after it comes out of the printer. It would be safe and healthy in any indoor environment. And we print for museums, galleries, photographers, artists internationally. So we have clients all over the world.
Wow. That's from adversity to opportunity. I guess that's kind of cliche. I don't want to, make whatever you're saying sound smaller, but why aren't more labs doing this? I know there has been a movement towards, better paints, better light bulbs, better environmental product. Why aren't we doing this more in photography?
I think photography is a field that's, like many others, just reluctant to change. There are established ways of doing things, and the people have been doing them that way for a long time. There is very aggressive marketing in the field for less environmentally sustainable ways of producing images. It's an area where photographers in particular these days are struggling to survive. The development of stock photography on the internet, tremendous number of images in social media have created a situation where it's easier for people to find images, and so they hire photographers less. And they're concerned with just getting by. And when you're hungry, you don't think about the environment very much. You think about trying to feed yourself, and that's where photographers
Maslow's
are.
hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So who are you selling to?
We sell to museums, to galleries, to environmentally aware photographers, so photographers who are looking for a more sustainable or a more healthy solution. It's a relatively small audience. We know who many of them are from experience and communicating with them mostly on the internet. And we also deal with artists for reproductions of their artwork. And artists as a whole tend to be more environmentally sensitive, more environmentally aware people. They also happen to be people who are exposed to toxic materials a lot. And there are lots of anecdotal evidence about the health effects of art materials, some scientific evidence about that as well, and particularly the effect of volatile organic compounds, which lots of paints, inks, off-gas or out-gas, and those are known neuro and respiratory toxins. So artists have become more aware.
So I may be assuming incorrectly that you've always been in the lab and photography business your whole career?
No, I've been in the photography business for most of my career in one way or another. I've been an entrepreneur, I've been a writer, I owned a marketing firm, advertising agency, design firm for 20 years, just outside of Boston, actually not very far from where we are now. I lived about 2 miles from here.
So you've evolved.
I've changed. I've evolved. I'm not sure evolved is the right word, but I've been forced kicking and screaming down a different path.
Well, because the economy's changed, correct?
Certainly for people in the arts, the economy has changed, and particularly in this political environment, it's very difficult to get support for the arts.
So let's get a little bit into the Wayback Machine and maybe let's give us a sense of where you did start in your career and how you got to this place.
I probably started my career in one way or another when I was 12 or 14 years old. My father owned the largest commercial photography business in the Northeast outside of New York. A very large studio. He employed about 30 photographers. And I started working in the darkroom making prints for him. In fact, I have a very mild asthma now that's caused by exposure to glacial acetic acid, a chemical in fixer used to fix prints in the darkroom. So from the time I was 14, I was printing. I went to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, to study photography. I got my degree there. I then became very interested in psychology, and I transferred to another school in the Midwest where I got a degree in clinical psychology. Decided that I would pursue that for a while, and realized after a few years in that field that I got into it, as many people do, for all the wrong reasons, and that it really wasn't the field for me. I went back to graduate school at Harvard to try and find a way of combining these diverse interests I had in the visual realm and photography, in writing, and in psychology. And I spent the entire time I was in my master's program there looking at ways of combining those things. Out of that came an entrepreneurial small business, looking at the very subtle psychological variables involved in the marketing of photographic products, of all things. I did a lot of consulting work for companies like Polaroid around very subtle issues like, what is the meaning of the negative in photography? Is a negative considered to be a, quote, negative? Lots of research around those kinds of very subtle issues that affected people's less than conscious perceptions about photography and its processes. But I realized in that process that I was business naive. I really didn't know from a business perspective what I was doing. While I knew my subject matter well, I didn't really have any understanding of what business was about, and realized that I really needed to get more experience that way. So I was offered an opportunity to become a product manager in the Braun North America division of the Gillette Company. And I became the product manager there for AGFA's consumer photographic and professional photographic
I
products.
remember it all. I used to sell Agfa film.
Oh, very good, very good. So you remember AgfaPan and you remember AgfaChrome probably. Those were great products. And I was responsible for the
I like
distribution of
Kodachrome
those.
better, but
Excellent. Well, Kodachrome was a great product. Yeah,
right.
yeah. In fact, Kodak is thinking about bringing it back.
Really?
Yeah, lots of interest in a resurgence of more
You
historical
mean like using
imaging
turntables?
processes. Exactly
Right.
like
Back
that.
to
Yeah, yeah,
basics.
yeah, yeah. Lots of debate in the field about
Right.
what's the better form.
Digital versus film.
Sure, and there's certainly a place for both
Right.
mediums.
Well, for me, I'm lazy. I like digital.
Yeah, I do too.
It just
For
makes life simpler.
many of the same reasons,
Yeah.
it does make life simpler.
Downloads right to my phone.
Yes, we like it because it's actually superior in quality, which is a very debatable issue. There are a lot of people who contend that it's not. I contend that it's actually superior because it's much more controllable. And in photography, we talk about, particularly since the invention of Photoshop, we talk about a phenomenon called local adjustments, the ability to fine-tune small parts of images. And you can do that in digital much better than you could ever do it in conventional photography.
Right.
So I became the product manager eventually for Hasselblad cameras, a really renowned
those too.
camera brand. I was responsible for Hasselblad in the U.S.
Brand.
Right. And I was recruited out of Braun North America by Polaroid Corporation to direct their business and professional advertising. And I did that for a large number of years. After that, I was responsible eventually for both domestic and international business and professional, or industrial advertising for Polaroid, which was the realm in which they made all of their money.
Right.
They made very little money in their consumer business and a lot more money in their industrial business, much more profitable business for them. And I left there to become director of advertising and corporate communications for a medical laser company. And I did that for a couple of years. After working for other people for what was then 10 or 15 years, I decided it was time to try and work for myself. And so I left and I started a marketing firm and did that for about 20 years.
Wow.
And that experience has been very helpful to me in the other areas that I've been exploring since.
And you explained how you started Eco Visual Labs.
Yes, yeah, that started
Out of
around.
adversity.
Yep, yep, exactly. That started around 2009. My late wife passed away in 2010. But she became ill a number of years before that. And so I had a lot of time to kind of think about what I wanted to do and to try and explore ways of doing it in a more healthy way. I had been just coincidentally fortunate to have been a consultant in my marketing business to one of the largest paper manufacturers in the world. Massachusetts company, a company that makes the paper for U.S. currency. But for the purpose of this interview, they'll go nameless. But I worked for them for quite a while, helping them develop and begin to market papers on the photographic side of their business, particularly inkjet papers, and discovered in the process of working for them this paper that they really didn't know what to do with, which was made from the reclaimed fibers from cottonseed oil manufacturing. Linters, small cotton fibers that are too small to weave. You can't use them to make fabric. They otherwise wind up in landfills, but they just coincidentally happen to make the finest papers in the world.
Wow. It's amazing. Time just flies. Rick, maybe you're going to have to come back again. We've been speaking with Rick Colson, owner, master printer, EcoVisual Labs. Pretty dynamic life. If someone's looking for you, Rick, how would they do that?
They can reach me, Rick, at EcoVisualLab.com. That's EcoVisualLab.com. Or they can reach me at 617-413-5343 on my cell, which I have with me just about 24 hours a day.
Thanks for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and you can find me at Mage, M-A-G-E, USA, or MageUSA.com. And we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more stories as soon as we can.